and I'm so excited to be here today with Molly Ford. Hi, Molly.
Hi.
Hi. Molly is the founder of smartprettyandawkward.com, which has been featured in Redbook, Parade, the Daily Muse, InStyleUK, and Forbes, and I love her site. When she's not writing and managing the site, she works full-time in marketing and is the co-chair of the organizing committee for the 40 Women to Watch Over 40 Awards, and she writes the syndicated recommending reading column in over 70 newspapers across the U.S. She's also an instructor at the General Assembly. Molly, you sound really busy. How do you keep your zen and stay balanced? You do so much.
It does sound busy when you say it all in a row like that. I think the key to staying balanced, which is something that I do struggle with that a lot, I think as most of us do. Two things that I do to try to keep sort of a little bit focused, and I think centered would be a good word, is I do morning pages. So morning pages are from The Artist's Way, which is a textbook for sort of how to live a more creative life. And one of their big takeaways is every morning to do a 3-page free write. In a journal. You can write about whatever you want, and it's just to sort of get the creative juices going. I think it's done, people encouraged to do it so that you have a better idea of like what's going on in your head. You get it all out on paper, and then you can move on with your day, which is I love morning pages. I think that they really clear my head. I usually start with what I'm wearing. So like today I was like, good morning. I do it when I'm drinking my coffee. And I say, good morning. Today I'm wearing a blue dress. In a couple hours I'm being interviewed by Amy Lee. Here's what I'm nervous about. And I just sort of go through my day. I don't show them to anyone. I would probably be completely mortified if anyone ever found them. And it sort of just helps work out any anxieties that I'm feeling. And just getting them on paper feels like I don't need to keep them in my head. So I do morning pages every day. And then something that I that I care a lot about is scheduling, so that I'm not being overscheduled. I know everyone is challenged by their schedule, I think. I try to have at least one weeknight where I have no night activities. That's a big goal of mine, is to leave a weeknight free. And then on the weekends, what I really try to do is an idea that I picked up from this book that I loved called What the Most Successful People Do Before Breakfast by Laura Vanderkam. I loved that book. And one thing she said in it is on the weekends you should try to do something social, something spiritual, and something active. And I try to do one of those all three of those things every weekend. And sometimes I pair them together. Like I often go for a walk with a friend, which is like the social and sort of the active part. I'm not terribly active, so that's what I count as exercise. And then just do something sort of grounding or centering, go to church or something like that. Every weekend, that's a big goal of mine, is to do those 3 things. So those are sort of what I try to focus on. Morning pages and scheduling, not too crazy, and being deliberate about what I'm scheduling.
I love it. I think it's so critical. We do all struggle with that. And I think somebody like you, you're achieving at a high level. There's a lot of demands on your time. Scheduling is key, and I think being a little bit protective of your time, too. Like you keep a weeknight free.
Absolutely. I think being protective of your time is key. Something that's really important to me is when, blog readers or students ask to meet with me, I always want to give them time. I think that's very important. But what I often do is, at least for the initial meeting, ask if we can do a phone call instead.
Yes.
Just in case they have a specific question or something I can help them with really quickly. It doesn't need to take up either of our, an entire weeknight.
Definitely.
Protective is key.
Big time. So I love smartprettyandawkward.com.
Thank you.
And I'm wondering what inspired you to start it. How did it come about?
Well, the blog is 6 years old now, which is so crazy. And I started it my senior year of college. I was a finance major at the time, and I was interning at a big iBank here in New York City. And I was really starting to think what I wanted to do after I graduated, and the markets were sort of crashing because this was like 2008, 2009, and I was starting to think, if this finance thing doesn't really maybe work out, or if it isn't a right fit for me, what would be a right fit. And I was really interested in like the digital world. I was like sort of interested in writing. And I've always been sort of like an early adopter of tech type products. And I was like, what's this deal with blogging? Like I'd had like a blog previously, like a live journal or something. But I decided to start writing. I thought it would give me an outlet for creativeness. It would give me an outlet, something I could put on my resume as like the top bullet point for that I knew how to market, that I could build an audience, even if the audience was small. And so I started just for that. I wrote for a couple months without telling anyone. And then sort of from there, it sort of took on a bit of a life of its own. But that's why I started. It wasn't, I basically got the idea, I think, on like a Wednesday, and the first post went up that like Friday or something. So it was a quick, I never thought that 6 years later I would still be talking about it.
And those are those moments when we take action, I think. Yes. And we don't know what the outcome will be, and we can't project, but we take action instead of just thinking about it. I think it's
absolutely. I feel like the key to everything in life is just not overthinking it and taking action, and then not spending any money on it. So if you get an idea, then you do it quickly.
Yes.
You don't spend any money on it, and if it's a failure, I mean, the blog was far from like the first idea I'd had. Like I had this, I did like a button making business for a while. I was selling clothes on eBay. I was just doing all sorts of weird little random things. And then who knows when you start one that you'll still be talking about.
Exactly. When it hits and what it takes on a life of its own and what will happen. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So one of the things that I love about Smart, Pretty, and Awkward is that you talk a lot about self-love, which is one of my favorite topics. So share a couple of your favorite self-love tips with us.
Absolutely. So I think self-love is really important, and I always like to sort of wrap self-love up with like self-care. I think that those things really go hand in hand. Probably the main thing that I try to do is sort of talk to yourself like you're a friend of yourself. Like if you wouldn't be super harsh to your best friend or your sister, which I would hope that you wouldn't be, then why would you be harsh to yourself? Yeah. So I always try to run it through the filter of, okay, if I wouldn't say this to people that I love, why would I say this to myself?
Right.
On the same note, like a line that my dad says that I think is really smart is, don't talk down to anyone else, and don't let anyone else talk down to you. And I feel like, I really like that too. I think it's like a nice way to go through life is, I'm caring and respectful of everyone, or that's always the goal, and that includes myself. Yeah. Other things that I do that I think sort of fall into the self-love, self-care is whenever I feel really different from like the rest of the group, is I try to tell myself that that's what makes me special. So if in a group of people and maybe I have different knowledge than them, or I have a different skill set or different experiences, or I'm a different gender, like sometimes being different is a way to be special, and I think it's the special people that get noticed. So I always try to spin that, like being different means you're special, which is always a good thing.
I love that.
I know, I like that too, actually. And then the last thing that I do is a little silly, but I feel like this is like a big happiness driver sort of in my day, is when I look in the mirror when I'm like washing my hands or getting ready to leave for work, I always smile at myself. Two purposes there. One, nothing's in my teeth. And two, I think there's like all sorts of research about how if you see someone smiling, you feel happier, you feel more relaxed. If you do it right before like a big speech or something, I think just seeing like a smile from someone you love, which is hopefully yourself, I think that's like a nice way to start the day. So when you're washing your hands in the bathroom at work, just do a quick little smile in the mirror.
Yeah. I love it. And you know what? The other thing is, when you smile, it depresses the capillaries in that area of your face, and it triggers your brain to create a happiness chemical.
Okay, I love it. I never knew the science behind it.
This is a really funny thing, but I read it when I was in like 8th grade or 9th grade in my mom's Glamour or Cosmo or something. And I was super bummed out because I was like in a fight with my two best friends, and I felt left out, and I was like depressed about it.
Typical high school.
And I remember walking down the stairs of our house, and I had just read that up in my bedroom, and I turned a corner on our staircase, and I made myself smile, and I felt it. I felt the chemical change. I felt better.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
So that's a great.
Smiling. And I also feel like if you just work at smiling, you know, like the purpose of being around in this life is to be making connections. So, you know, smiling at the people that you meet every day that maybe you don't have long-term relationships with, you know, the person that does your coffee or the dry cleaners or whatever. I feel like I feel like smiling is very underrated, to be honest.
Me too. What
As I'm smiling right now. How can I not smile saying that?
You're just smiling it up. So this actually kind of talks back to how I was just talking about high school.
Yeah.
What one piece of advice would you offer your 18-year-old self if you could send a message back in time?
Whew. Well, immediately a lot of superficial, like, why is your hair like that type comments are coming to mind.
Sure.
But I would say probably, I guess I would probably say two things. One's sort of tangible, one's a little intangible. On the tangible side, I think I would be careful. I think I'd probably actually have joined LinkedIn earlier because I feel like I had a lot of internships and co-ops type stuff going through college, and I wish that I had still had the emails or contacts with people that I'd worked with back then. I think it would be interesting to see, you know, what they're doing, and I don't always remember their last names or where they are. So I wish I had done a better job networking type stuff back then throughout college. I also, you know, I think this is a really good question, and I think people always sort of ask a variation of this question, and I always don't know what to say. I don't really know if I would have given, I don't know if I would give myself any specific advice, but I think I would probably, if I could meet my 18-year-old self, so 10 years ago, I think I would just give her like a hug and say, it's okay, like you're on the right path, it's all going to work out. And I feel like a big reason that I like writing Smart Pretty Awkward is I like to give that advice to people that like you are on the right path. If you're doing something that is putting you even the tiniest baby step forward, you're on the right path and it is going to work out. And all of the nights that everyone spends, you know, hemming and hawing over these terrible life decisions, it all just smooths itself out. Everything works out. And I really hope that when I'm 38 and someone asks me this question, I'm giving the same advice that, you know, just give myself a hug and say I'm on the right path. Hopefully I'm not like, what were you thinking when you were 28? So hopefully we're all on the right path. I just always trust that we are.
Yeah. I think that's really nice advice. And it's true, and I think it's a lot of the times what we then end up wanting to offer to the younger women in our lives too, you know?
Exactly. And I also feel like just telling someone, even if you don't or know everything about their life, like you're on the right path, I think that's a very reassuring thing to hear. And it usually, it's like self-fulfilling. If you believe you're on the right path, then you become on the right path.
That's true too.
And I feel like so much anxiety is around like making life decisions or life choices. And if you just know that it's either all going to work out or you're going to make it so it all works out, it'll be fine.
That's the thing is either way you can make it that way because you can choose.
And like trust yourself. Like I feel like what's that Winnie the Pooh quote everyone says, like you're stronger than you think? That's just so true. You know, people can deal with terrible, terrible life-altering things and come out of it hopefully stronger. And like the little choices you're making now, like God willing, will all work out.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, good.
I like it. So, we'll switch to kind of like a career-y question.
Okay, great.
What has been the peak moment of your career so far?
That's a great question. I would say I was really proud that the blog I started, Smart Pretty Awkward, was featured in Forbes. That was in the fall of this year. So probably like 4 months ago now. Yeah, it was a really big, exciting moment for me. I mean, Forbes is such a respected name, and it's something that I was so proud to share with, you know, my family and friends, and that was probably one of the highlights. Definitely.
Cool. Congratulations on that. That's amazing.
Thank you.
So what's your greatest joy in life? If you have to pick one, I know it's a tough question.
I know that is a tough one. Well, I would say that the greatest joy in my life by far is the people in my life. I mean, I have a wonderful blog, I have a wonderful job, I have a wonderful career, but the people would always be the most important thing in my life. After the relationships and the people that I love, I would say, I'm a little cheating, I'm getting two more. I would say that a big joy of my life is that I get to live in Manhattan.
Cool.
It's not easy to live here. It's, it's a challenge and it's a grind and it's expensive and there's tons of downsides to living here. I mean, I'm talking to you from my apartment that is, it's a little on the smaller side. But I love living here. And to me, there's just this intangible energy and excitement that I have from living here. And I swear, every morning when I leave my apartment and I shut the door and I walk out, I go down my little elevator and I hop out onto the street, I just feel so incredibly lucky that I live here. And I've lived here for 6 years now. I sort of thought that at some point that would go away, and if anything, it's gotten stronger. So I feel really lucky to live here. And then I feel lucky to work in a career and have the blog readers that I do and have a job that I love. I feel very lucky. I'm lucky to have a lot of joy in my life.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, where can our viewers find more of you and your offerings?
Perfect. Well, you can always find the blog at smartprettyandawkward.com. Mm-hmm. You can follow me on Twitter. My handle is at it's Molly Ford. Mm-hmm. You can follow me on Pinterest at It's Molly Ford. You can follow me the blog on Facebook at Smart, Pretty, and Awkward is the name of the page. And you can always find me on LinkedIn if you want to connect about marketing or digital. I love meeting new people. I really try to, when I get introduced to someone, I really try to have a relationship with them, whether that's through email or through a phone call or coffee or something. If they're in the city, I think networking is really a fun part of my life. So I'm always interested in meeting fun people, smart people.
That's how I met you.
Exactly. I love it. See, these are all the fun things that you can happen if you're just
networking.
A networker, yeah. Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Molly. It's been awesome to have you here. And I'm Leigh Mercree. And remember to live joy, be kind, and love unconditionally today and every day.
Thank you, Amy, for having me.
Thank you, Molly.
Bye-bye.
Bye.